I just came across the whole Reform Party, Nigel Farage, Rupert Lowe thing yesterday. Rupert Lowe has been saying a bunch of things that a lot of people who support reform largely agree with. And Nigel has pushed back at him on those things, specifically the point of remigration. Now, I don't really believe remigration is possible. I think it's a completely unworkable policy idea. But the root cause or the root philosophy that's driving it, which is this idea that there are just lots of people in the country who are not going to integrate, is actually a fair point in my mind. In any case, Nigel Farage is receiving a lot of pushback on his counter-argument to Rupert, and it's because, yeah, large members of the Reform Party agree with Rupert. And they've even pointed out that Zia Youssef probably shouldn't be in the party. And Nigel has said, well, you guys are saying that because you're just racist against Muslims.
But I do want to say one thing. Some of the online abuse and frankly outright over racism that has been showed against a senior member of this party, had it been
The thing is that he's actually right. He's actually right. A lot of those people are just racist against Muslims. But for me, I think the point he's missing is that that's what Britain is becoming. I think especially the people who would want to vote for reform or parties of that kind of caliber because they think that's the only solution to this. A lot of those people, I think, are at a point where they just don't want Muslims in Britain anymore. They just don't want it anymore. And I can sort of understand where they're coming from, given the litany of issues that we've had over the last few decades that has some association with Muslims. And I don't think Nigel gets that. I think he, in a way, isn't really the candidate that they thought he would be. I don't think he genuinely feels there's an issue with the growth of Islam in the UK and the growth of Islamic influence in the UK in the way that a lot of people do. I don't think he understands that. And he's miscalculating the mood of his supporters by misunderstanding that, by not understanding that. In a way, I think he doesn't want to see that. He doesn't want to see it because that's a very uncomfortable truth to have to face, which is that a lot of people simply don't want Islam in the UK. I think that's where the UK is coming to. I think the rhetoric that I see online, increasingly it's just that. This idea of Britain being a multicultural place that welcomes people of different faiths, I think it worked for a while only because everyone believed that everyone who bought into that was willing to be British and willing to just stick with the British way of life. But as I've said previously in another video and just generally, if you have a culture, if you have two cultures where one culture has more stringent requirements in terms of how its people have to behave, how they have to live their life, and another culture which is much more liberal about things, and if you want to have a society that caters to both of these cultures, then inevitably you're going to cater to the one with the stronger requirements because the other side will go with whatever. And that's why we see this increasing Islamization, so to speak, of Britain, is because Islam and specifically Muslims have much more stringent requirements in terms of how they can live their lives, the kind of food they can eat, halal food, all these sorts of things. And so inevitably society has to cater more to that. So yeah, I think a lot of people in the UK just want this sort of Islamization to be rowed back, to be pulled back, and for Britain to remain un-Islamic as a country. It's a bit of a weird thing to even think, you know, is it really becoming Islamic? I mean, Muslims are a minority in the population. But I think what it is that when people are used to growing up and seeing the world a certain way, Englishness, pubs, all these kind of things, and they see that stuff being and they see that stuff deteriorating and it's getting replaced by more mosques and just more presence of Islam generally, I think that freaks people out. I think that's what's going on.